Maybe they are now taking down the numbers down to 0 days, since an accident,
Right. Yeah, great point. Accident-free for 2 minutes. Hail, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Severance, Season 1, Episodes 1 through 3. It's a show on Apple TV. We'll break it down for you, but just as we typically do, I must say where we open, where we close. We open with Helly waking up at Lumen for her orientation / first day on the job. She's kind of our window for the audience, right? She's the, what is this? And we watch it through her eyes. We end episode 3 with Mark witnessing Petey collapse at a gas station. He rushes home, tries to remove the evidence that Petey has been staying there, and Petey's cell phone rings. We know that Petey's been in contact with the folks who reintegrated him. So my guess is that Mark is about to meet with those folks as well.
You're already throwing out wild theories.
That's a good point. I don't know how. I got some wild ones for sure. Wild theories to come. That was a less wild one. It was so. I was like, yeah, that's probably true. So. That's how cavalier I am about these. All right, so you might be asking out there, what is this show? It's a 9-episode season on Apple TV. It's directed by Ben Stiller, and they are apparently starting filming for season 2 in the next couple of weeks. So that's something to keep in mind, is that this is not a mini-series. It's not going to have a story arc that ends at episode 9. It's going to carry over. This is a combination, I would call it a mystery box satire show.
Okay.
And surprisingly good.
What?
I say surprisingly because, other than you, I didn't know this show existed. This show has gone so under the radar. It feels like it's like someone's class project or something. Like, just another thing. But actually, no. This is high quality TV. The premise is that employees at Lumen Industries, some of them, undergo severance, i.e. they agree to an intrusive, supposedly irreversible brain surgery that separates their work memories from their non-work memories. Supposedly it's to keep the secrets of the company secret, but there's obviously a giant range of side effects, and one of those being that your work self, or your innie, they have innies and outies, your innie never remembers not being at work. Hence, you're always working. Yes. There's other side effects that we'll talk about. But before we launch into that, Paul,
yes,
what did you think of episodes 1 through 3 of Severance?
I definitely enjoyed it. One thing you kind of hinted at in saying it's a satire is there are elements of the show that, you can definitely tell have been touched by Mr. Stiller, because they're strange / funny / esoteric or something. There's some weird aspect there that is a nice touch to the show that I would say distinguish it from shows like Lost or even Legion. Well, Legion had its own thing that was kind of like that, but still.
But this is, I think, mystery box aside, there's a huge layer of just skewering corporate culture. I mean, it's just...
But not just corporate culture, that whole dinner with no food.
Great point. The dinnerless dinner.
Yes.
Just to say who our main characters are, you've got your 4 grunts. So your 4 employees are Mark, who's kind of our protagonist, although maybe that's Helly, but it seems like Mark is our protagonist.
Yeah, they definitely spend more time with... We haven't seen Helly's home yet.
Right.
Although, there are probably very good reasons for that.
Exactly. That's a huge question in this show is,
yes,
why on earth would anyone agree to do this? And so you see, we know one person, Mark's reasoning.
Yes,
Mark
we do.
Lost his wife in a car accident. and he's just trying to do anything. Instead of coping with it, he just wants to cope with it by not coping with it.
But anyway, yeah, back to the group there.
Oh yeah, so you got Mark, you've got Dylan, you've got Helly, and Irving. And so those are your 4 employees. They all have their own little idiosyncrasies and such. Then you've got basically the 2 boss figures that we are acquainted with are Mr. Milchick and Harmony. They are not severed. I think it's pretty clear through the episodes.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Unlike our 4 employees, the 2 people above them they know who they are on the outside and the inside.
Probably, yeah.
We've also got another probably severed person, Bert, played by Christopher Walken. He's in the optics and design department, and he seems to be drawn to Irving. And I think the implication is that they have a relationship on the outside in some way. If I had to guess, I think their outies know each other, and somehow that knowledge is coming across.
It's causing them to be drawn to,
or like
to
that,
each other?
like maybe there's some sense memory of like, I know you kind of, and I don't know, maybe. That's my thought. Another theory.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is a theory. Yeah, I guess that's possible. That would give a meaning to the relationship that I hadn't considered. I think it might be more poignant though if they were both alone on the outside and they were finding a way to connect inside. But what do I know?
And then some minor characters that are still, another major character that's important is Petey. Although he may have died at the end of episode 3, and if he's not already dead, I'm gonna mat that guy. That guy's he's on life support. I'll say that. So he was a former grunt. He was one of the 4 workers, and he managed to reintegrate.
Petey actually was in charge of the little group.
Right, he was the one in charge. Now Mark has been given his title. So Mark has been promoted because Petey basically went through a reintegration procedure, which is supposedly impossible, but he did it, which means that he unsevered himself. And it seemed like he unsevered himself a couple of weeks before he was either fired or he quit. So
right, because that's how he begun dying grabbing the office.
Right. At first, I thought that the lengths to which this company goes to keep secrets was all just like propaganda that they'd given out to their employees, but it sounds like it's actually true. They're like, you can't write anything anywhere.
Oh
you can't put anything on your skin or it'll denote it. You can't write a note in a capsule and swallow it or it'll figure out.
It's possible, or we've seen that they have cameras everywhere, so they just make us notice whenever they do something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the scanner caught you."
Yeah, yes. Right. Good point. So Petey managed to basically get some information. He wrote this map on the back of a picture, a photo, and then he either quit or was fired. I think he ran away, is what it sounds like. I think the company figured out he had severed or unsevered and was kind of come after him, and he had to leave. I think it's the idea. And so he's been in hiding.
That makes sense.
And he was hiding in Mark's basement. And then we see this last scene where because he's still having reintegration sickness, as he calls it, where he can't figure out which version of him is active. I will say this notably, when he's taken to the hospital, which means he's now going to be public knowledge. Lumen's going to know where he is. He's wearing the bathrobe that the pretentious brother-in-law gave to Mark.
Oh, right.
So I feel like Lumen will figure out there's a connection between Petey and Mark, that in case they hadn't already. But so Mark is perhaps going to be in trouble because we see that there's a giant movement, justifiably so, the anti-Severance folks, and apparently some of them have figured out how to undo the process.
Well, we don't know if it's ever been successfully undone.
Right. Well, unless we take Petey, at least somehow. Petey is a mildly successful case who may have just he survived for 3 weeks and died. But So I feel like
yeah, I mean, it's possible that they, in the place this unknown group. I like the fact that Mark names the group that he was aware of, and Pete dismissed
he's like, no, it's
the
not
group
them.
that was responsible. Yeah,
that's an interesting choice because they easily could have just made that narratively simple, like, oh, that group did the thing.
Yeah.
They're like, no.
I think it's possible that at the place where they did do the procedure, that maybe they are now taking down the numbers down to 0 days, since an accident,
Right. Yeah, great point. Accident-free for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But I feel like the direction of the show might be headed towards, at some point, maybe not even this season, but maybe that's like an end of season 1 into season 2 thing, but that Mark undergoes the process, gets reintegrated, but continues to spy on the company, like Petey was trying to do. Because you get some great tension there. If, like, in real time, you've got a guy trying to pretend that he's an innie, but he's not.
Right.
That would be there's some interesting conflict to be done there. So I feel like that's probably at some point our arc will take us there.
That could be.
So Helly has been brought in. So in other words, they needed to fill a spot, right? Petey's gone. So they brought in Helly, but then they also promoted Mark because he'd been there a while. So Helly is our brand new person. She sees that she's made a video where she, again, making a video, while sure it's kind of proof, is it? I mean, like I would, if I was like, oh, look, you made a video of yourself a day ago that gives you permission to take your brain out. Okay. All right. Well, this video says it, so I'm fine. Like, anyway, she doesn't really go for it either, obviously.
Well, she doesn't accept it at face value. I mean, she doesn't dispute that herself is doing that, so she's trying to communicate with herself.
Right.
There's nothing about her that's blinking.
Yeah, great point. And we see at least the back side of that, the other side of that, which seems to be fun.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I think it's important not to get distracted by things like that, because it's clear that that's why they showed the other side of it.
Yeah. Great point. I'm just thinking I would be skeptical, I'll just say. But
you're like, it's like this guy's the last guy I was trust.
Exactly. But yes, she records a video basically saying, hey, future self that's not going to know anything, I gave permission to do this, so it's cool.
Right, which is a part of, that's what everybody goes through.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that what Mark says about it, how he wanted to kill Petey when he was going through it. He promised it. He said he would kill Petey. And so he went through his own...
acceptance. Stages of grief. I don't know. Why do you think, first what we see is a very striking image of Helly waking up on a table. And apparently that's the way they all come in. I think Irving mentions it.
Right.
Like, why do they lay him on a table to wake up? It's just a weird thing to do, right?
Yeah, right. Not put them in a chair.
Right, in a chair, or laying backwards on a recliner or something. I don't know. Just like lay on a conference table and then wake up like face down. Like, good Lord. Anyway. It's so... The fact that her name is Helly as well, we have a couple of references. I don't think this is hell. I don't think that's where the show is going. But it does have a few references where they're like...
The first episode's first name is Good News About Hell.
Yeah, right.
And that's the reference that, what is it, Harmony says,
Yeah, she basically says, hey, if humans can imagine what hell's like, then they can probably try to recreate it. Implication being that's what they've done.
And it's interesting too that she takes a very different persona with Mark than she does on the outside.
Right.
So she's far more mothering on the outside, and yet she's willing to be an antagonist inside.
And I feel like that is to spy on Mark, right? I mean, she's certain she has her consciousness, so she's not a severed. And on the outside, she is Mark's neighbor. And she comes over late at night. She's like, she takes stuff off of his stoop. She's certainly spying on him to make sure that he's severed, I think.
That's probably it. there may be some concern about, is there things we can do to make this work even better outside? So, when she notices that, he hasn't changed the light in this place.
Right.
And she is asking about if he's getting enough sleep. And, she's doing that inside and outside, actually. But
it's interesting, too, that, why pick Mark? I mean, I guess you could make the assumption that everybody's got somebody spying on them that lives next door to them. But maybe not. Maybe the idea is, while I think there's a suggestion that she's been his neighbor for a while, perhaps she just became his neighbor after the Petey incident, and they've made him think she's been her neighbor a while. I don't know. In other words, hey, Petey escaped. They were best friends. We're kind of worried about Mark. Let's spy on him. I'm just going to move in next door.
I think it's possible that we just don't know that it's only been very recent.
Okay.
I don't think they're giving him memories outside that he's got to deal with. I don't think that's what's going on. I think it's like at some point they're going to bring that up, that she wasn't there for very long, or we'll find out that there are other people that are shadowing
Everybody's
them.
got their own spy on the outside. It just feels a lot like an extended Black Mirror episode in a way, right? Like it's like using science in a dystopian way that feels just on the other side of absurd. Anyway, but
it definitely doesn't have the same mood. As Black Mirror.
Right. It is not. I mean, it is dark humor in a lot of ways, but there is a humorous bizarreness to it that is unique in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and even though yes, it's definitely satirical, it doesn't feel to me as if it's sort of nihilistic. It doesn't feel quite as extreme.
I don't know.
I guess it could get there.
Lumen is a
the
pretty dystopian company, but yeah.
The fact that the activists outside and the life that his sister and brother-in-law have, aren't too dystopic. I would say that, and also too, there's a chance, since there are people who are activists who are going against it, that this could be stopped.
Right, that's a great point.
That doesn't feel like the kind of thing that happens in Black Mirror.
In fact, we get a pretty good idea that the people that have undergone this process are a minority of the population.
Yes, right.
So it's still a small thing. Also, it's interesting the fact that they have introduced the sister and the brother-in-law and this other movement, and we see the outside town. And it snows, and there's a residential area. Unless they're in a giant simulation, it gets rid of a lot of theories of like, it's all in his head, or it's there's a world, and they interact in it, and then they go into the work world, and it's a completely different place.
Was that difficult for you to accept?
It was. It was. I was like, it's all in his head. Mm-hmm. Make it all in his head.
No. Come on, you can do it. You can still.
I compare good shows. I guess it's a compliment, but to Counterpart. But it also has a Counterpart feel with a giant mysterious company with retro tech. At the center of a big sci-fi mystery, and the mystical higher-ups only communicate through like this little speakers.
Yes. They're even less communicative than the
counterpart higher-ups.
Where they had a somebody who would speak on behalf of the higher-ups in Counterpart, and here it's just
it's just static. And there was a great moment where they're like, static. They left the meeting. You're like, okay, how can you tell? One of the things I'm impressed with in terms of the employees, especially even Helly, is their ability to get around the maze. Like she gets through the maze pretty nicely. And the maze of corridors reminds me a little bit of kind of a corporate setting that I was familiar with, which is here Merchandise Mart. Here in Chicago.
Okay.
One of the guys in a comedy group could get us a room that we rehearsed in for a while. So, but Merchandise Mart, at the time it was built in 1930, it was like the largest building in the world. It had like 4 million square feet. But it's not up, it's out. So it's a ton of hallways with no windows.
Corridors.
And like I would get lost. I'd come up on the elevator, step out, no idea where I am. I'd be like, literally every cross section looks exactly the same. It was a whoo! I was like, wow, how do people get around in this place? So similarly,
that was the moment that where I bought in.
Yeah.
When Mark cries, and then he goes up in the elevator, and then the mood changes.
He's sobbing in his car.
Yes.
And then he walks into work and he's like, da, 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 blissful.
The music is like, this great soundtrack into this whole show, really.
Yeah.
But, once he was, walking down that hallway and just turning and turning and turning and turning.
Turning, yep.
And the music was there. It was just like,
blissful smile on his face.
Yeah. And the music was just like, oh, yeah, this is a good show.
Yeah. And then they've got like their little, each episode kind of introduces us to a new branch of the office. So you've got like the break room, which is designed to break you. Right. That is a nihilistic place. Like they're like, say this apology over and over again, and we're going to use a lie detector. Yes. And if we don't think you mean it, you just keep saying it until you mean it. Like, oh, that's pretty terrible. You've got the wellness room where they tell you supposed facts about your outie. I'm going to doubt that, but anyway, tell you things to pacify you. And then we meet,
and it's hilarious how they control you as you're doing it. You can't choose how you interact. You have to do it the way they want. Even there, it's like, no, you can't enjoy any one part more than the other.
Yes.
No.
It's Irving.
Please don't show any emotion while you're listening to these facts about yourself.
Irving's been punished for falling asleep at work, and then he goes to the wellness room, and he's appreciating certain facts about himself, and then he gets minus 10. You're like, what? Wait, I don't. So there's that, and then there's this perpetuity wing, which is a museum to the founders.
A museum, yeah.
And we meet the Egan family that seems to run this place. Interestingly, we learn from that the Lumen started in 1866. Interesting date, since that is the end of the Civil War. Wow, and it's got this big house that almost looks like a plantation house. You almost wonder if was this like their answer to how do we create new slaves? I know. We'll make them sever themselves and work always. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Another thing we learn actually from that perpetuity thing is like their mission statement, or like what they believe, what this guy Keir Egan originally believed, that the mind was separated into 4 tempers, which he called woe, frolic, dread, and malice. So it's like 3 of the 4. Okay, but anyway, so that's just 4 tempers, which kind of remind me of like the 4 humors from medieval medicine. But interestingly, Paul, I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah,
I did a little too much frame grab.
Okay.
Episode 1, when we see Mark sit down. So what their job? Just describe their job. They sit down at a computer, and a whole bunch of numbers come down. And when they see numbers that affect them, like, that group of numbers is scary, they block it off, and then they move it down into a little icon bucket, and the bucket closes, and then they do the next batch. And that's their thing, is they take numbers and put them into buckets. Okay. When Mark is doing that process, I'll show it up here, and I'll put it up here so you can see. But when the bucket opens and he puts the stuff in, the graph shows up. And it's got abbreviations for woe, frolic, dread, and malice, and they all have little sensors, like how full is it, and they all are different levels. Okay. And so he's moved these numbers in, and it's changed the values of woe, frolic, dread, and malice in this particular set. So I feel like somehow these numbers are attached to this belief system. You want a far out there theory, sir?
Sure, why not? Let it rip.
Okay. At the end of episode 3, we get the map that Petey drew. I'll put that up here too. There's one spot, because he's trying to spell, here's the break room. Here's the thing. Very top, it says like mind. And it's a big room. It just says mind on it. It sounds like flames on it. I don't know. Anyway. it occurred to me maybe Lumen has created some kind of giant AI, and in their mind, like these numbers are the interpretation of this AI's brain, and they're making it apply to the tempers, basically. Oh, that's this he's out of balance. Let's move the AI numbers around. Like they're helping to keep this giant AI thing going. Anyway, there you go. There's a theory for you, Paul.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that's I wouldn't have considered that, because my feeling has been of the work that they're doing, that it's standing in for something else that they'll eventually do. So that's an interesting idea.
Also, the fact that there are 4 employees, and they make sure there are 4 employees. Petey leaves, they bring in someone else, but only one person. Could that be that they all are representing one of the tempers? Like, I don't know.
That's an interesting idea.
Maybe. I mean, one solution, one answer, and I don't think this is the right one, but the one answer could just be like, oh no, this is all meaningless work, and they're the experiment. We're just experimenting on these guys and making them do meaningless tasks repetitively. I don't think that's it. I feel like Lumen, there's something larger to this company than just simply screwing with people. But
I think it's something larger than that, yeah. But if they were if there were different tasks that the groups were performing, and they were sort of learning what this group is going to sort of react to this process, and then okay, now we can pass the law that lets us to do it to even more people, and then at some point you're like, okay, here's your new task, and that could be anything.
Yeah.
But at this point, they're still doing this. That's my sort of feeling on it. That maybe the people that can't leave are doing the real work, and this group is just sort of like, okay, we still need to learn more about how.
Right, great point. We do hear from Petey that there supposedly is a group of folks that can't leave the building, that they're there all the time. Whether that's true or not, probably true, frankly, with this place.
Yeah, no reason not to believe him.
Helly has tried to escape a few times. She tried to resign, and was somehow she seemed pretty convinced that it was going to work. It didn't. Rejected. And so the implication is that her Audi rejected the resignation. That's what I got out of it.
Oh, sure.
She thinks that her Audi has said, "Oh no, I don't want to resign." I'm not sure that the company passed that along, or I think the company just said no.
They might not, but when we did see Helly, she was prepared to make that decision for her, the same decision.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, she really doesn't want to stay, but she's not like, oh, what should I do? She's just sort of like, you got something planned for that? I mean, I feel like for me that's that and the tell that Mitchok, or is it Milchick?
Yeah.
Was saying how the work that you do is so important, making me think that she's a ringer. So it's somebody that they created a profile for that would make her attractive for the company to hire.
Okay.
That she's really there to find something out.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, I hear that.
So she might be another person, or the person that at the end of the season
is the
is the one that they might make both of them that way, actually, to give them the procedure that the anti-severance procedure that caused them both to be.
Okay, I can see that. I can see that. I liked her thought process for how to communicate with her Audi.
Yes.
And so, and it may have even had worked. I don't know. The last thing she does is she runs to the exit building, the door that she knows once you pass it, then you come back in and you pretend that's where the outies and innies meet. And she breaks through the glass and then reads the note. And I think her thought is, since I'm outside, I'm reading something outside the office, does that mean my Audi will then remember it? Which maybe, that's a good theory.
Yeah, if she succeeded at getting her head out the window, which I don't know that she did.
Yeah. But that was a good idea. I'll put it that way.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So she's still trying to figure out ways to do that, and I think we're going to see Mark start to try to figure out ways to pass information to his outie as well, or from his outie to his innie. More to the point, his outie's going to have information like, oh God, and Petey's in trouble and all this stuff. How do I let innie know what's going on without writing anything down? And so I feel like there's something's coming there where he's going to start to strategize as well. Here's a far out theory that is not actually compatible with the other theories that I've given. So I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually. Anyway, if this one was right, then everything else will be
wrong. Is this your innie theory and your outer theory? Is that why they don't get along? They don't know what's going, what the others are doing?
Yeah, the innie me made this one, and I was like, guy, since we didn't even communicate on this is okay, whatever. First of all, we know that Milchick and Harmony are not severed. They are constantly monitoring the employees at work. Harmony lives next door to Mark, so she's spying on him. Lumen spies on his employees. I mean, that's, constantly.
Sure.
So I think Lumen may have another spy in place. Again, this is the far out theory. But the best place to insert a spy would be at the worker bee level, I think. So if that's the case, I'm going to call it Dylan isn't severed. He seems to be the happiest at work. He seems to be the most well-adjusted. He has yet to get into trouble. We haven't seen him on the outside yet. And he seems kind of like just like an employee at a typical company, not crazy like some of these folks are crazy. And I feel like that guy doesn't fit into this story. So why? One reason would be he's a Lumen plant. And so he's trying to be like, I'm just one of the gang. Meanwhile, reporting on everybody.
Okay. All right. That's interesting.
Would you agree with me that he seems to be like the guy this procedure seems to have the least negative effects on at this point? Irving goes to sleep and he dreams an oil pouring out over the computer.
I feel like the way that he sort of talks, the topics that he talks about and his behavior, like in the in the museum or whatever, and pretty consistently that he's somebody who is not that self-introspective and is pretty surface kind of person.
Okay.
So that's what I feel. I feel like if we find out, it'd be interesting. They certainly have enough episodes for them to give the outie version of him, and just about everybody else. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of person he is. But his theories and everything. I mean, it'd be a surprise if he's like that, and certainly, I guess that could explain things. But
I think you're right that it's more likely that this show is just going to show us the outie version of these folks and how different they are one from another, and that's part of the show. Will be like, hey, this is Irving when he's not in the office. Oh wow, very different. This is Dylan when he's not in the office. So I threw that theory out there just because he just doesn't seem to be having the same gothic effect on him that it has on everyone else. He's pretty happy to get little finger prisons and erasers, even though we don't use pencils, but we get erasers. He's like, all right. He kind of just shrugs off the absurdity of it pretty nicely. Anyway, so we'll see. But yeah, I do feel like the duality of these people's lives is what another center of this show is going to be. For now, it's basically just Mark and Petey, but we didn't really see Petey on the inside, so it's really Mark.
Just a little bit. It was interesting to see him in there for the little bit that we did, because it was like, it was him in a very office sort of persona and everything, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, and he managed while he was integrated to record a break room session. It's one of the things that convinces Mark that the place is so bad. It's like, what? It's happening to me? Which is interesting to me, too, because, obviously the outies don't know what's happening with the innies. But the innies would all have, those who've been to the break room, and it seems like they have, and even Helly has now, it seems like they would remember that and be, repulsed by it, permanently. I don't know. That would, in my office, let's say your office, you worked there for 3 years, and in that time you went to the break room 4 times, you'd want to get out
Okay.
of that place. Your innie would be like, I can't stand this place. I must leave. Like, I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird that I think that because they get literally conditioned to feel apologetic, maybe.
Yeah, I
that
think
it's not
so.
like they're just grinning and bearing it. They're actually led to believe what they're saying. I don't know. Anyway, so it's very
Yeah, I
dramatic.
mean, that, procedure, while it doesn't seem pleasant, it doesn't, it's a different form of torture.
Yeah.
It's
torture.
It's like, it's sort of like, oh, we want you to really believe it or whatever. And so, yeah.
I mean, I suppose you're right.
And they don't give everybody a way out.
I suppose you're right. If it's just you say it 3 times and you walk out of the office, so be it. I get the feeling it's like, again, 100 times later, again.
Well, yeah, but since they don't have any idea of themselves outside that place, that's the only conception of themselves they have, really,
Yeah,
is in
that's a
relation
great
to
point.
that place. So, and the fact that everybody goes into that room, or at least at some point they do.
Yeah.
Maybe not Dylan.
Maybe not Dylan, punishment free.
Maybe that's why he's so far ahead
That's
of
right.
everybody.
Well, I love the bit where they all have the little group moment where they all have to like talk about themselves.
Oh yes,
Because
yes,
they
yes,
only can talk about themselves from inside the office.
yes,
So the
yes,
only
yes.
memories they have are like, I cleaned up my workspace the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
You're like, what? Oh man. Yes, that was pretty brutal, but great.
Yeah.
No, this show, I'll say, as I said, I was surprised at how good it was, and it's a quality show. So for 3 episodes in, I'm hooked. I'm very glad that I've been watching it, and if you out there have a way to watch this show, check it out. The mystery aspect is great, but it doesn't just rely on that. It's not just a mystery show.
No,
It is,
no. It does a good job of showing these characters, and in a very intriguing way. I like, just in that first episode where you see all those different aspects of that one event.
right.
That is difficult to understand, but it really gives you a sense of the people by seeing those different perspectives.
Yep.
So I'm very happy with it.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll be back talking about episode 4, and come on back for that. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
Oh, sure.
And we'll be back next time.
You're welcome.
Bye.